Hello, everyone. So, approximately 50 to 70 million of us have a problems falling asleep. That's why we wanted to bring a sleep doctor today. We have Dr. Bhopal with us. Dr. Bhopal is triple board certified with advanced training in integrative psychology and sleep medicine. Welcome, Dr. Bhopal.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So let's understand. As a baby, we never have problems sleeping, right? And now this has become like not a pandemic, but a serious issue. What is the cause of this problem?
Yeah, so sleep issues are a huge problem globally. It's almost like another, epidemic in and of itself. 35% of Americans don't get enough sleep night to night, and we can talk more about why that might be and what the adequate amount of sleep is. But insomnia is a huge issue, and most of us have experienced insomnia at some point or another, right? So we've all had nights where maybe you had a big event the next day, or it's your wedding day the next day, or something like that, and you had some difficulty sleeping. But when that's happening on a regular basis, 3 times a week for more than 3 months, it becomes chronic insomnia. And chronic insomnia is a huge problem worldwide, even up to 60% of people. The estimates are kind of hard. It's kind of hard to estimate how many people are experiencing this, but studies show that between 10 to 60% of people experience chronic insomnia. So what are the causes of this? Generally, the driving force behind insomnia is something called hyperarousal. So hyperarousal is when your nervous system is in a revved up state. So you can imagine, when you're working during the day, you have to be in a little bit of a heightened state so that you're alert and you're able to concentrate. But if that doesn't calm down, if that doesn't shut off at night, that's going to perpetuate this issue of chronic insomnia. And what perpetuates that issue of hyperarousal could be a multitude of things. So things like stress, anxiety about sleep itself. When you have trouble sleeping, you start to get anxious about sleeping. So that can drive it. But medical issues can also drive it. So issues like thyroid imbalances, even diabetes, imbalances in your blood sugar can cause it. And then other underlying sleep issues like sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome, even long-term issues with mental health. So anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder can also cause insomnia. So you can see there's multitudes of causes. And so this is why it's really important that if you're struggling with insomnia, that you figure out what's the driving force behind it, or the driving forces. There may be more than one cause before you start jumping into solutions.
Got it, got it. And so let's explain us, why is it so important for us to get proper sleep? What happens if we don't sleep properly?
Yeah, so sleep is one of these things where, it's usually the first thing to fall off your to-do list, off your priority list. When you're busy, you're like, okay, I'm going to stay up late and work on this thing, or, stay up late studying for that exam or what have you. And sleep is usually the first thing to go. But sleep actually needs to be a priority. And the reason for this is that sleep is fundamental to brain health. It's fundamental to physical health. It's fundamental to emotional health. And so we all know that feeling of when you don't sleep well, you don't function as well the next day. It's harder to concentrate. You don't have the energy to exercise. It's harder to make good food choices when you're sleep deprived. You're going to be more likely to reach for that bag of chips or that chocolate bar versus the salad. And so what happens during sleep is that sleep is a very active process. So one thing that happens is that your brain actually clears out toxins that build up during the day. So when we're awake, our cells are active and metabolizing all the nutrients that we're consuming and such. And this results in a buildup of proteins and other metabolites that need to be flushed out at the end of the day. So you're like cleaning out the pipes, so to speak. And so that process in the brain happens during sleep. So if you're sleep deprived, your brain isn't able to clear out all of these toxins that build up. One of those toxins is actually amyloid beta, which is involved in Alzheimer's dementia. So we're learning that when people are chronically sleep deprived, they actually have an increased risk of dementia later in life because of the buildup of these proteins. Another thing that happens during sleep is that it regulates your metabolism. So your hormones involved in hunger, like leptin and ghrelin, which tell you when you're hungry and when you're full, these go out of whack when you're sleep deprived. So that's why you might notice when you're sleep deprived, you want that bag of chips, because your ghrelin hormone, so I remember ghrelin like your stomach is growling, so you have more ghrelin. makes you hungry. So that actually goes up when you're sleep deprived. So down the line, that can cause an increased risk of diabetes, weight gain, even obesity can be related to sleep deprivation. And then there's also cardiovascular implications with sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, it can cause an increased risk of high blood pressure and cardiac arrhythmias and heart disease. So you can say it affects every system in the body.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, in the society where we live, working hard and working late at night is considered like a plus thing in the society. And then you say, oh, do you sleep for 8 hours? No, I sleep for 5 hours. It's like, right?
Yeah, it's like a bravado kind of thing, right? Like, oh, I can get by on 5 hours or 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it adds up over time and it has a real impact on your health.
Sure. So how much sleep we should do? Like 7 hours, 8 hours, or 5 hours? I mean, what is the optimum range here?
Yeah. So the optimum range for most adults is between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, that's not going to be the same for everybody. So your sleep needs might be different than your partner's or your neighbor's. So most people will need to get somewhere in that range. Studies show that optimally about 7 is actually pretty good for most people. Now, the thing is, you also don't want to be too fixated on the number because it's going to fluctuate from night to night. Mm-hmm. So there are going to be some nights where you get 8, some nights maybe you get a little less than 7, maybe you get 6.5. Some nights you get closer to 7. So that's okay. On average, you want it to be working out to about 7 to 8 hours. Some people need closer to 9. But what can happen, and this is what I see with my patients, is sometimes they get very fixated on that, I have to get that 8 hours of sleep every night, or I'm going to have all these health issues. And that causes more anxiety and more of that hyperarousal response where you're now anxious about sleep itself. So don't be too fixed on the number, but aim for getting that 7 to 9 hours and just give yourself ample time to wind down in the evening so you can get to bed on time.
And what are your thoughts on afternoon siesta that is common in Europe, at least?
I'm a huge fan of the siesta, the nap, and it's actually very in line with our natural body rhythms. So we naturally have a dip in our circadian rhythm in the afternoon. So around 2 or 3 p.m., we get a little bit of a dip. That's when you see the line at Starbucks outside around the corner. Pre-pandemic, you would see people lined up for their afternoon coffee. That's because we do get this natural dip in the afternoon. And that's actually a great time to have a short nap. So the research shows that the ideal time for a nap is about 10 to 20 minutes. Any more than that, and you're going to go into deep stages of sleep, and that's going to make you more groggy later in the day, and it's going to take away from your nighttime sleep quality. So keep it to less than 20 minutes, 20 minutes max. Less than 10 minutes isn't going to do much for you either. So ideally, what I recommend to people is if you have the opportunity to take a nap, set your timer for like 15, 20 minutes. You might not actually fall asleep, but even laying there with your eyes closed in a state of rest is going to be rejuvenating. And then it's going to give you more energy to go on with the rest of your day.
Sure. So since you are a medical doctor, do you recommend popping a pill for sleep issues?
Yeah, so when we talk about sleeping pills, there's 2 broad categories to think about. So one is the what we call Z drugs or Z drugs. So these are drugs like Ambien or Lunesta that people may have heard of. And you can also think about benzodiazepines kind of related to those 2. So those are things like Klonopin, Ativan, Xanax. Then we have the over-the-counter, which is a huge industry, right? These over-the-counter sleeping pills. And many of them are based in Benadryl or diphenhydramine. So like Tylenol PM, NyQuil, those types of things, those will have diphenhydramine or Benadryl. So what is the problem with taking any of these? They're not designed for everyday use. So once in a while is usually okay. So like I said before, if there's a big event coming up and you need a bit of support, or maybe you're traveling across time zones, you need a bit of support resetting your schedule, or just, with helping with sleep intermittently, usually it's okay, 1 or 2 times here and there. But the problem is when people start using these every night for prolonged periods of time. When I say prolonged periods of time, I mean more than 2 weeks. And so what happens with more than 2 weeks of use continuously is you can get tolerance. So you start to need higher doses to get the same effect. You can become dependent on it. So then it's hard to sleep without it. And I hear this a lot from people. I can't sleep without my Tylenol PM, or I can't sleep without my Ambien. Or you start to get rebound insomnia. So what that means is that when you stop the drug, the insomnia comes back with a vengeance. And the problem here is that, we talked about root causes of insomnia before. These meds don't address the root cause. So as soon as you take the medication away, the root cause is still there. And so the sleep issues are going to come back.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your approach.
So my approach as an integrative psychiatrist is holistic. So I like to look at first the root causes, but also addressing other aspects of health that are going to impact your sleep directly. So what I always say is that good sleep starts during the day. So setting yourself up with regulating your body rhythm and really leveraging your natural circadian rhythm is really important. Also increasing your sleep drive. Sleep drive is what makes us feel sleepy at night. So if you can increase your sleep drive with certain behaviors and activities, that's going to help you fall asleep and stay asleep more easily. And then also really working on how you think about sleep. Because if you're feeling frustrated about it, which I see a lot with people, it is frustrating when you can't sleep for, prolonged periods of time. So if you start feeling frustrated about it or anxious about it, we can really try to start to untangle those thoughts that are perpetuating the issues with sleep. So that's kind of my three-pronged approach. And then I also make sure that gut health is optimized so that you're eating the right foods that are going to support you with sleep, because we know that certain types of foods, for example, foods that are high in saturated fat and high in sugar, result in less amounts of deep sleep and also more sleep disruption. So optimizing your diet is an important part of this as well. And then bringing in mind-body practices, easy things, simple things you can do during the day, breathing techniques and stretches and things like that. So if you can integrate all of these different elements like a jigsaw puzzle, you can address each of these pieces, you're going to set yourself up for not only a good night's sleep now, but also in the long term. You'll know exactly what to do to improve your sleep over the long run.
Sure. We have a question coming up. Someone is asking, are there certain color lights that help you sleep better? I have seen people say that blue or red light at night can help you sleep better. Is that true?
So you want to avoid blue light. You want to avoid excessive light anyways in the evening time. So what I recommend to people is after 7 p.m., you want to start dimming the lights in your home and even dimming any light exposure you're getting from screens, because light stimulates your brain, telling you that it's daytime, right? So it tells your brain that it's daytime and it suppresses your natural production of melatonin. So there's not specific lights you need to be using at night. What I would recommend is actually just to minimize light exposure as much as possible in the evening, so your body knows that it's nighttime and it starts producing melatonin.
Great. So I do want to talk about, we are launching a holistic sleep program with Dr. Gopal. Do you want to say, talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm really excited to be partnering with NourishDoc, presenting this program. And it's called the Holistic Sleep Reset. And it kind of dives into some of these elements we just touched on. So talking about your circadian rhythm and your sleep drive and your mindset, and bringing in elements of your gut health and your diet, and really kind of creating a system for you so that you can set yourself up during the day for a great night's sleep and know exactly what to do. So in this program, we're providing you with a holistic roadmap so that you can know what you need to do at different times of the day to optimize your sleep quality.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gopal, for being with us. Any other questions, comments, feedback? You're welcome to put it in the chat window and we'll take care of it right now or later. And we will be emailing you all the details of the holistic sleep program that we are launching with Dr. Gopal. So stay tuned on that. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to say that just emphasize sleep is a foundation of health. So I implore everybody to make sleep a priority, give yourself time to wind down in the evening, get to bed on time, and make sure that you are allowing yourself that time to rest. We all need that right now during this pandemic.
Sure. So okay, someone's asking a question. Are there shadowing hours that are provided for this event? I don't understand what that means. Shadowing hours. So the program is actually, maybe that's what you're asking. The program is a self-recorded videos, and we will have a one session, group session with minimum of 20 or 25 people. So maybe that's what you're asking. So I'm just trying my best to answer that question. All right. Well, yes, sleep is very important, as Dr. Gopal has clearly demonstrated. If you don't sleep properly or if you don't sleep enough, what it can do to you as far as all the other issues and the ailments. So that the main mantra today is our 10-minute of wellness capsule. Focus, invest in your sleep. That's what I will say. And I'm going to do that. I actually don't have problem in sleeping at night, but I'm going to make sure it's a better sleep than what Dr. Gopal is talking about, right?
Fantastic. So that's the thing, right? Some of us don't have insomnia, but we're just not making sleep a priority, and we're walking around chronically sleep deprived. I must admit that I also can fall into that trap too. So that's why, I know from firsthand experience how important this is. So yes, please make sleep a priority.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Gopal, for being with us. Thank you, everyone.